Good day, I am Leo Samuel Fernandez and I'm with my partner Jessa Dagyo. We will be reviewing the PD 1775, amending PD 705, the revised Forestry Code of the Philippines, with a much more focus on the Presidential Decree 705. Forests play a vital role in our environment, providing resources, protecting biodiversity, and sustaining livelihoods. However, protecting these resources requires proper policies. Today, we explore the Presidential Decree number 705, or otherwise known as the Revised Forestry Code of the Philippines, and its amendment PD 1775. The Presidential Decree Number 705 is a comprehensive law that regulates the utilization and management of forest resources. This is in line with the basic principles of forest management and conservation. Meanwhile, the Presidential Decree Number 1775, which amends Section 80 of PD 705, which aims to strengthen law enforcement due to acknowledgement of the low filing of criminal cases due to the inadequate prosecutorial manpower, so they needed a much stronger policy. For its historical context, the regulation of forest lands in the Philippines dates back to the Spanish era, when, when policies were focused on timber supply for the Spanish Navy, and under the American rule, industrialization increased timber use for projects like railway. After World War II, forests became crucial for economic recovery and leading to mechanized timber production. Then, by the 1960s, the first reforestation administration was made to mend the forest destruction that eventually led to the institutionalization of forest management through the Presidential Decree 705 in 1975, which was signed by President Ferdinand E. Marcos, which is now known as the Revised Forestry Code. PD 705 was implemented to regulate the forest land use, ensuring sustainable development while prioritizing protection and rehabilitation. It classifies lands, penalizes illegal logging, and assigns responsibility for conservation. Recognizing the need for stricter enforcement, Presidential Decree 1775 was issued in 1981, amending Section 80 of PD 705. This granted a broader authority for arrest and prosecution of violators, strengthening the law enforcement efforts. The decree's purpose is to put emphasis on the need for proper classification, management, and utilization of forest resources, not only to optimize benefits but also for the protection and development of forest lands to ensure their continued productivity. For its salient features, we have 6 key points that constitute the Presidential Decree 705. First is the utilization of natural resources and citizen benefit. PD 705 ensures that our natural resources are used for national development, public welfare, and sustainability. Second is the classification and management of forest lands. Forest lands in the Philippines are systematically classified based on their purpose. And for the section 77, it is divided into 2 categories. It's basically constitutes the violation. First is the unauthorized cutting, gathering, and collecting of forest products, and 2 is the mere possession of illegally sourced forest products. So who can be penalized in all of this? The law states that it is in any individual, including officers, loggers, traders, transporters who violates PD 705 provisions, is personally liable and can face prosecution as liability does not fall on associations or corporations. So the main point here is that the person will be the one responsible instead of the organization associated with that person. So lastly is the penalties under the revised penal code. Qualified theft, Articles 309 to 310. Illegal logging is considered qualified theft since forest products belong to the state, with penalties based on the revised penal code, factoring in the value of the illegally obtained wood per board foot.
One of the successful implementations of PD 705 is the massive reforestation initiative launched by the DNR in 2011 through the Executive Number 26, which is called the National Greening Program, or the NGP. This program was designed to combat deforestation, restore degraded forest lands, and to promote sustainable land use. This program is a convergence initiative of DAR, and DNR, where the DNR stands as the lead implementing agency. Now we go on to the objectives of the program. So, its goals are to reduce poverty by helping communities and indigenous groups, to protect natural resources by conservation efforts, to supply essential resources like wood while combating climate change through reforestation, to increase public awareness of forest conservation, and to promote environmental responsibility and strengthen collaboration with government and society in efforts for reforestation. Now we go on to the second program and activities that was implemented. It is called Forest for Life movement. For the second successful implementation of PD 705 is the Forest for Life movement, or the FFLM, which was a conservation initiative led by the Haribon Foundation, a biodiversity-focused non-governmental organization in the Philippines. Since its launch, the Forest for Life movement has been actively restoring critical forest areas in the Philippines. It calls on individuals, corporations, and even communities to join their tree planting and conservation efforts to ensure a greener, more sustainable future for the Philippines. For the objectives of the program, it aims to restore 1 million hectares of forest, expand habitat for rare and forest-dependent wildlife, to bring natural vegetation and biodiversity, to protect ecological goods and services, to determine carbon sequestration in forest restoration sites, and to increase local options for sustainable livelihoods. Now we go on to the violations under this law. On the other hand, one of the programs and activities that violated the principles outlined on PD 705 is the unlawful small-scale mining at Mount Apo. Mount Apo, the highest mountain in the Philippines and protected area in Mindanao, faces threats from illegal small-scale mining. This problem is common in other resource-rich areas of the country. In a remote village where the Abomanovu or the indigenous people live, illegal gold mining has caused environmental damage. Even though authorities shut down the mining operation nearly a year ago, its negative effects on the land remain visible. Its implementing body are the illegal miners, no known agency. The raiding team, led by the officials from the Mines and Geosciences Bureau, or the MGB, an agency under the Simatus Department of Environment and Natural Resources, discovered a tunnel running 5 meters or 16 feet, indicating that the mining operation was still in its early stage. Now, to address the violation, according to the tribal chieftain, the mining operator did not seek any permission to the mine area, which was a violation of the Section 47 of PD 705 that mining forest lands shall be regulated to ensure the proper use of resources. The site was also not in a designated area for mining, violating environmental protections. Now, for the second programs and activities is the Kaliwa Dam project. It is one of the most controversial environmental issue known as the Kaliwa Dam project, which was implemented as means to address water demands in the constantly growing metropolis in Metro Manila. It is part of the new Centennial Water Source Project, or the NCWSP, and is being developed by the Metropolitan Water Works and Sewage System, with funding from China. The construction of the Kaliwa Dam within a forest reserve could lead increased deforestation and damage the Sierra Madre's unique ecosystem. The MWSS is the leading agency responsible for the implementing and overseeing of the project, while the DNR has handled environmental compliance, including issuing environmental compliance certificates. Now, what does it violate? Section 19 of PD 705 states that forest lands should only be used to provide natural benefits while minimizing environmental harm. However, the Kaliwa Dam project violates this by threatening the Kaliwa Watershed Forest Reserve, a protective area under Proclamation number 573. The project plans to submerge 300 hectares of the forest, which could harm biodiversity, disrupt water resources, and displace indigenous communities. This contradicts the principle of public welfare, as it provides infrastructure development over environmental and social concerns.
So in this section, I will be explaining the impacts of these PPAs into the context of the four components of the environment, namely physical, natural, social, and behavioral. For the successful implementation of PD 705, which are the reforestation programs, which is the National Greening Program and the Forest for Life movement. For the physical impacts of these programs, this helps to ensure a long-term conservation to our physical environment. These programs follow Section 33 and 37 that classify land for reforestation and protect forests from degradation. For the natural environment, reforestation helps restore forests and biodiversity by protecting wildlife, habitats, and making ecosystems more sustainable. And this is in line with the Section 55 of the revised Forestry Code, which outlines the need to implement measures to protect and conserve wildlife habitats and promote ecological sustainability. For the social environment, restoring forests benefits communities by creating safer, healthier, and more resilient environments, in line with laws that promote, in line with the provisions which the law provided that promote public welfare. Lastly, for the behavioral, these restoration projects encourage people to take an active role in conservation, helping build a culture of sustainability and environmental responsibility. For the impacts of the violation of PD 705, the physical environment, first is the Kaliwa Dam project alters the landscape, increasing risks of flooding and landslides, which threaten the environment and violate Section 37 of PD 705 on protecting forests from degradation. For the natural environment, the dam project and the illegal mining destroys wildlife habitats and it contributes to deforestation and biodiversity loss, violating laws that protect biodiversity, which is the Section 55. For the social aspect, these activities to ancestral land destruction and forces indigenous communities to relocate is against the Section 19 of PD 705, which and more that this is the Section 19 of PD 705 indicates the need to improve the public welfare, and this project goes against that. So lastly, the behavioral aspect is instead of promoting sustainability, these activities encourage environmental destruction, going against the principles of basic forest conservation and management. Overall, the advantages of the revised Forestry Code of the Philippines prioritizes forest protection and sustainable use of forest resources. Through systemized land classification, conservation measures to minimize environmental harm, and community-led restoration incentives, the law provides a strong framework for forest management. Furthermore, the amendment of PD 1775 enforces stricter regulations against violations, reinforcing conservation efforts. For its disadvantages, the Forestry Code faces a key challenge in balancing national development and environmental conservation, particularly in cases like the Kaliwa Dam project, which aims to improve Metro Manila's water supply but causes environmental damage and community displacement. This conflict raises ethical concerns as national projects often take priority over ecological sustainability. The dilemma highlights the need for a balanced approach, ensuring that development does not come at the cost of forest destruction and social welfare. However, weak enforcement and the prioritization of infrastructure over conservation make the forestry code somewhat vulnerable to exploitation, emphasizing the need for stronger implementation and oversight. And that would be all for our review of the law PD 1775, amending the PD 705 revised forestry code of the Philippines. And thank you for listening.